Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another beautiful video on this beautiful channel on this beautiful day. How's everybody doing? Hope you're doing great as always. Today's video is about linking OpenGL, GLEW, GLM, GLFW, and eventually IMGUI as well. So these things are just going to help you quickly and easily link everything and set up your project and make it ready to go so you can start coding. So before starting with the coding and the linking, I'm just going to show you a demo of the completed project. So what we're just going to do is we're going to link everything up so that it works. We're going to test out GLM just by doing a little extra thing here. And then we're going to create a little window, a GLFW window after initializing GLFW and GLEW. Where's GLEW? GLEW. And all of this, I'll try to explain as well as I can and write the comments that I have here, so it'll help you out. If we run this, we're going to see a little red window pop up, just showing us that OpenGL, GLEW, GLFW, and GLM, everything was linked properly. So if you like this type of video and my content, please drop a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. This is the absolute key to everything and really motivates me to keep making these videos. So please don't forget to do that. And I hope you enjoy this video. So I'm not going to talk too much. I'm just going to jump in and create a new project. Now in the last SFML video, I didn't create the project and people flipped out. So I'm going to create the project from scratch here. So just select an empty project in Visual Studio 2022 and go ahead and click next and just give it any name that you have. I'm just going to call it OpenGL link and just hit create. Now before you get going, just go ahead and right click on your source files folder and add a new item. And just call it main.cpp. And we do this just so that we get the option later to link everything and you get the whole properties section here opened up. If you don't add the main file, you won't be able to do this. So in order to link everything properly, we need to create the main file first. Now the first thing we're going to download is the GLEW library. So the OpenGL extension Wrangler library. Now there's a lot I can say about this, but I'm not going to since we're going to keep it short here. But basically, this library allows OpenGL to run on your machine for your hardware easily. So you don't have to do a bunch of setup for OpenGL before you even get started. So what this does is it allows extension loading for OpenGL and it's cross-platform. So it doesn't matter what platform you're on. So just like it says here, it provides efficient runtime mechanisms for determining which OpenGL extensions are supported on your platform basically. So our computers can be different. OpenGL needs to run differently on both. GLEW just makes that automatic. And it allows us to call OpenGL functions on every platform, on every system easily. So we can both call the same function on both our machines and it's just going to work. But behind the scenes, GLEW links everything properly so that the correct function for your hardware is being called. So just go ahead and click on the Windows 32-bit, 64-bit binaries, and it's just going to go ahead and download that for you. So the next thing I want you to do, once you downloaded GLEW, I want you to download GLFW. So just go ahead and Google that at glfw.org and hit download here and go ahead and download the 32-bit Windows binaries. So we're downloading 32 bits for everything just because it's going to be compatible with basically every system. So if you go ahead and do 64-bit, you can do that if you want. And it's basically the same setup. It's just that it will be locked or you'll just be able to run the application on 64-bit system. So go ahead and do 32-bit just for the sake of this to work on every system. And you just hit download and it will download it. And this is basically a library to get a window popped up. And this will provide something called an OpenGL context for us where we can draw and render everything. You can do the same thing with SDL or SFML even. So if you want to try that way, you can do it. But this is a very lightweight and nice library just to get a window popped up and then you can start working with OpenGL. So the next thing I want you to download is GLM, which is the OpenGL maths library. And it will allow us to do a lot of stuff. For example, model matrices, projection matrices, all kinds of math stuff, vectors, anything that we need. There's a good read here that you can just check it out. It's a really good library to have when you're working with OpenGL. Just go ahead and go to the GitHub Truck GLM page here and just scroll down to the releases. So I'll go to the releases tag 101 and then I'm just going to download the zip file here, GLM 101 light zip. You just click on that and it should download it for you. And that should be GLM. So now I downloaded everything. I'm saving IMGUI for the next video, so stay tuned for that. But for this video, we're just going to set up all the basic stuff you're going to need. So I just pasted all of the zip files into my SFM or OpenGL project folder here. And we're going to be extracting all of these and trimming them down and putting them into a folder called external. So I'm just going to go ahead and create this folder here, external, and then just go ahead and unzip all of these. So once you extract everything, just remove the zip files. You're not going to need those. So now that we have everything extracted, I'm just going to rename these. So I'm going to say GLEW here. I'm going to rename this to GLFW, and I'll keep this as GLM. Now in here, you're going to see a bunch of stuff. What is important in the GLEW one, for example, is the lib and the include, and the bin has the DLL that we're going to need, but we'll wait with that for now. First step is going to be to go into our Visual Studio and link everything. So let's get started. Now to start the linking process, I'm going to put all of these folders into my external folder and try to keep the external folder where your solution is. So it's going to be a little easier for us to link. Now remember, we created a main function or a main file here. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to just say include IO stream and then just a simple int main here just to have something to go on. Now go ahead and right click your solution or project here and say properties, and you'll be greeted by this window here. And this is basically where we're going to do all the linking. So keep everything on all configurations, all platforms. You could specify it to 32 here, but I usually just do it like this if I'm still not going to be working on 64-bit and 32-bit differently. So we're just going to keep it like this. And one more thing you want to do is up here where it says debug and 64, just switch that to 86, just so we are on 32-bit here when we're running and debugging. Because sometimes you can miss this and you link for 32-bit and not for 64-bit. And if this is on 64-bit, it's going to try to run it on 64-bit and it's going to cause issues. So just make sure we're doing everything on 32-bit here. So first things first, let's go to the additional include directories here and edit. And here we'll be able to add all our include directories. So let's go to wherever you've had your external folder here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start with GLEW. So firstly, GLEW and include, since we're doing additional include directories, and just say just select it and hit select folder. And you'll see that it pops up here. Now, one thing we're going to do is we're going to remove all of this here, and we're just going to replace that with a $sign SolutionDir. So this is just a way to use a Visual Studio variable, so to speak. So it will automatically just put us in the solution directory, wherever your solution is. Here, it will just put it at this directory, and from there we'll do the path. So external GLEW include. Great. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add GLFW. So I'm going to go into my external again, GLFW, and I'm going to find my Visual Studio, well, that's for the library. Sorry, we're just going to hit include here actually, and just say okay. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy the solution directory thing, and I'm going to just paste it right there. So now we're including both GLEW and GLFW, and I like to keep this on top. You don't have to do that, but for me, I'll do that. Sorry, we need to do external here as well. So just like that, perfect. Now the final one is GLM, and GLM actually doesn't require you to include any libraries later. So we're just going to include GLM, the whole thing, just like this, and add this solution directory right there. And I like to keep this at the bottom. So let's just recap here. Solution directory, make sure to spell it properly, /external /GLEW and include. Same for GLFW, include and external and GLM. There, don't go inside that folder, just include the whole GLM thing. And once you've done this, just hit OK. Make sure it's all correct. Here you can see the evaluated values. So just make sure they're correct and then go ahead and hit OK and hit apply as well. Now we've done the include part. Now all that's left to do is basically the linker and then copying the DLLs, and then we'll be good to go. So go ahead now to linker and general, and here you're going to see additional library directories. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to hit edit here, and we're going to start a new line and find our external folder. And now we're going to start with GLEW again. So this time I'm going to go to the lib here and go to releases or release Win32. And I'm just going to select Win32. So I'm going to go here and just click on Win32 select folder. Great. And remove all of this and do SolutionDir. So make sure this is correct here, just so you don't get any issues. And then we're going to add a new line. And this time we're going to do external GLFW And since we're working with Visual Studio 2022, go ahead down here to VC 2022 and just click that and select folder. And let's do the SolutionDir thing and we're good to go. Now remember, GLM doesn't need this, so we're not going to do that. And this will be enough for us. And just make sure this is all correct here and hit OK and hit apply. And to the final thing here, we need to go to input under linker and add additional dependencies. So hit edit here and just paste whatever I pasted in the video description. You can read these as well. So it's OpenGL32.lib, GLEW32.lib, and GLFW3.lib. These are the three ones we need to add. Hit OK and hit apply. And that's all the library stuff or the linker stuff. Now we need to copy over a few DLL files and then we'll just test so that everything is working. So you can go ahead and hit OK here. Now I want you to go to your external folder and I'm just going to show you where those lib files that we just referenced are. So for example, here we have the GLEW32.lib and we have the GLFW under VC 2022. We have that lib right here as well. So that's why we're referencing them while we're linking. And conveniently for us, the DLL is right here. So I'm just going to copy that DLL. You can even control exit. And I'm going to go into my folder where my main file is. And I'm going to paste that here. That's for GLFW. Now I'm going to go to GLEW under external. And I'm going to go to bin release win32. And I'm going to find the DLL right here. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste it in here as well. Now we have the two DLLs that we need where they're supposed to be, wherever your main CPP file is. And that does it for the linking. Now we're going to include everything and we're going to do a little test program just to see if we get a window up, and then we'll be good to go. So now to get the window going, what we're going to need is to include and see that we can include our GLFW and GLEW. So I'm just going to say include GLEW, GL, GLEW.h, and that seems to be working. Perfect. And now we're going to need to include GLFW3. So GLFW3, and that's under GLFW, and that works as well. So you can even check what is inside here. So if you say include GLFW, and you'll see that it will find those header files here. Perfect. Now we're going to start creating the little test program with just a window popping up with a window color. And we're going to use this in the next video where we set up ImGUI just to show you how that works. So let's start by creating just a few variables here to allow us to set up the window width and the height. And I'm going to use something that comes with OpenGL. I'm going to use GLint width at 800 and height at 600. Now we're going to do some setup just to set up both of these things. Firstly, we're going to set up GLFW so we can get a window. And GLEW needs to be initialized after you set up a window. So after an OpenGL context is set, that's when we initialize GLEW. So that's why we're starting with GLFW. So let's go ahead and start with an if statement. So if not GLFW init. So if there's an error while initializing GLFW, then we're going to print out that it failed to initialize. And we're not doing any exceptions here. We're just keeping it really, really simple just to make sure everything works. In a real tutorial, I would use exception handling and everything. But for now, let's just do it like this. And then we're going to call terminate just to terminate anything it has initialized already and clean it all up and do a return 1 here just because it failed. I'm just going to add a little comment here just that we're initializing GLFW. Kind of self-explanatory, but we'll keep it like this. And now we're going to set up window properties. So this is when we actually create the window, it's going to be created with these properties. And the way you do that is you say GLFW window hint. And this is the way you set up all of the window properties. And you basically give it a value here, an enum for what you want to set up, and then a value to that. So it's kind of a key value pair here, whatever you call it. So the first one is the GLFW context version major, which is a complicated way to say what OpenGL version do we want this window to run. So major is the first number. So we want to run 3.3. So what this will do is it will set it to 3 point, and then we'll do minor here with a 3. So it will be 3.3 minor. And then we want to set up GLW OpenGL profile. So basically this is going to say if we want backwards compatibility or not. And we're going to say no. So it's the core profile we're going to use. So no backwards compatibility. We don't need that or want that. But we want forward compatibility. So we're going to enable that. And we're going to set it to GL true. So just make sure these are spelled correctly and that you set these up here. Now we're going to create the window. And for that, we're going to do a GLFW window, pointer window, GLFW create window, and then we're going to use the variables or constants we created and give it a name, test window. And we're just going to set null to these here. We're not going to explain a lot about this. One of these can be used to create a full screen window, I'm just saying, but for now, we're just going to leave it like this. And then we're going to check if window, if it was not really created, then we're just going to print out an error here. Failed to create window. And we're going to run the beautiful GLFW terminate. Great. And we're going to return 1 as well. The next thing we're going to do is just a few complicated things just to test this, but we need to do this. We need to get a frame buffer size. And that is basically how big the internal drawing size of the window is. So we create the window, but we need to get the internal drawing canvas size basically. And that's the frame buffer size. So I'm just going to create 2 here. Get frame buffer size, int buffer width, buffer height. And usually I like to initialize my variables, but for the sake of this quick tutorial, I'm not going to do that. And we're still going to use these right after, so it shouldn't be a problem. GLFW get frame buffer size, and we're going to say window, and then buffer width, buffer height. Great. So now we save those for later when we're going to use them in a little bit, when we're going to render stuff, or when we're setting up the viewport. Now we need to do something important. We need to make sure that we set the context for OpenGL so that GLEW can be initialized. This is really important, so don't forget to do this. Now, it's a really simple thing. Here, set context. So GLFW set context, GLFW make context current. And we're just going to say window here. So this makes sure that window is now the window we're going to be rendering to. And now GLEW can be initialized since there is a context set. Now we're going to init GLEW, which is really nice. First thing we're going to do then is to say GLEW experimental equals GL true. This allows us to use some more OpenGL, modern OpenGL functions and extensions. So we're just going to make sure that's on. So now we're going to initialize a GLEW here. And just to check if it's wrong, this is not the same way we do it here. What we're going to do here is we're going to say GLEW okay, and make sure it's not here. So if it's not okay, if the initialize didn't go as planned, then we're going to do a bunch of stuff in here. Otherwise, if you do it like this, that means we're going to cause errors and issues here when there are no issues. So just make sure it's like this. And we're just going to do a little stdc out. Going to copy a bunch of stuff here, paste it in here. Fail to initialize GLEW. And then we're going to do one more thing here. GLFW destroy window, just to make sure the window is deleted since it's a pointer and it has some dynamic memory. We're going to do these things on the bottom here as well, just to make sure stuff is cleaned up. So remember that. Clean up. Let's add that so we don't forget it. But that's good. So now we initialize GLEW. Now before we start our main loop, which will be here, we are going to set the viewport. Now this is where we're going to render. I think this has to do with the camera and stuff as well. It's been a little while, so I'm going to catch up on that when we get to those tutorials. If we get to those tutorials, not promising anything. I'm just saying this is a simple setup video. So just know that you need to do the viewport. And here's where we use the frame buffer size. So here, if you hover, you can actually read about all of these things as well, which is nice. But let's just go ahead and do this. And this is a GL function. So GL viewport, let's say it's from 0, 0, top left corner, whatever, and then buffer width, buffer height. So don't forget that step. Now we have a viewport in OpenGL. Good. Now let's create the main loop. So while not, so not exclamation mark, GLFW window should close like that. Make sure to not use the set window should close, just window should close, and then pass the window in here. So basically this is when we click the X, it will allow us to close the window. If we don't click the X, it will keep running, or whatever should close the window doesn't happen, then the game will keep running. Now the first thing we need to do is to get and handle user inputs, GLFW poll events like that. And this is probably needed to just close the window and all that, just to make sure all the events are registered and handled. Now we are at the final stretch. So we're going to render here. First thing we're going to do is to clear the buffers and set a background color so that we can see that we have something going on in the window at least. GL or clear buffers, GL clear color. So we're going to set a color that we're going to clear the buffer with. And I'm just going to set it to red since we see red really well. So it's RGB here and the alpha. There you go. And now we're going to actually clear the buffer. And we're going to say what buffer we want to clear. So GL color buffer bit. Now later, as you keep learning about OpenGL, either from my tutorials or not, you're going to know that there are different types of buffers that you need to clear. So like depth buffers and stuff. But for now, we just want the color buffer, and we haven't enabled any other buffers. So the color buffer is here. It's the only one we're using, and we actually cleared it. And now we want to finalize the render. So if you guys have worked with us, FML with me, or in any other way, you know there's like a display function, which just finalizes the draw. That's what this function here does. It's basically the end of the render for the frame. So it swaps the buffers, meaning that there's always two buffers, one in the background, one being displayed, and the background one is always being rendered too, and the front one is static and is being displayed. Once the next frame is done rendering, we swap the buffers each frame so that the back one is now in front, finished and rendered, and it's being displayed, while the back one is now cleared and being rendered too. Hopefully that made sense. They kind of just swap. One is displayed, one is being rendered too. So we're just going to call that GLFW swap buffers for the window, and that should be it. And we should be able to run this now. It's building, it's building, it's built, and we have a red window. It says test window. It's the size that we want. Now we can resize it and stuff. There are ways to disable resizing using the window hints, but perfect. This is what we wanted. Now we know that OpenGL is linked, GLEW is linked, and GLFW is linked. Otherwise, all this wouldn't work. So to test GLM, we're just going to include glm.hpp, and then we're going to say GTC. And here you're going to find all of the matrix stuff. And we're going to include matrix transform.hpp, for example. And it works. It's including. And we're going to try to just create a GLM mat for model matrix. And that works. So GLM is also included. So that is pretty much it for our beautiful program and linking of OpenGL, GLEW, and GLFW and GLM. IMGUI will be saved for the next video. Hopefully you liked this one and it helped you and it was quick and short and that I showed you everything that you needed to know. If not, please let me know in the comments. Please drop a like, subscribe if you like the video, and it really, really helps me out. That's why I create the videos I do, because it shows me that people are interested and that they want to see more of these videos. That's what motivates me, and I love helping you guys out. So please drop the like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just really helpful to me. So thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next video and have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.